From using something outside of combat to get himself a win, to breaking international Pokemon trade laws. Here are 14 times Ash should have went to prison. Ash's battle against Brox's Onix in the first season of Pokemon is one of those iconic moments that feels both brilliant and absurd. Pikachu, an electric type, shouldn't have stood a chance against Onix, a rock and ground type, immune to electricity. Thanks to a conveniently broken sprinkler system, Onix got soaked, making Pikachu's electric attacks effective. It's one of those moments that screams plot convenience, showing Ash's knack for winning through pure luck or unconventional means. Seriously? A sprinkler? At that point, why not go after Charizard with a fire extinguisher? It's almost as if Ash has luck on his side. Or maybe the writers were just having too much fun with it. Either way, Ash always finds a way to keep us guessing. At that point, Ash and his cheating should be served with a 2-year sentence from participating in any battle. And that battle isn't the worst part of Ash's criminal record. Remember that time Ash tried to catch Haunter, but ended up with a ghostly sidekick instead? Yeah, turns out that might be a serious legal issue. You see, if the Pokemon world acted upon their strict capture laws, Ash would be in deep trouble. Technically, Haunter never got officially caught. It just floated along like a spooky unregistered pet. And in a world of strict Pokemon laws, that's basically harboring an illegal ghost. So maybe Ash isn't as guilty for this one, as Haunter decided to just follow him without any paperwork. And the irony? Ash doesn't even realize he's breaking the law. One minute he's off to challenge Sabrina, the next he's unintentionally crossing borders with an unregistered ghost type. At this rate, Ash is looking at some serious charges. Maybe it's time the Pokemon world introduced a Pokemon passport, because Ash is about one step away from being a ghostly poacher. But hey, at least he didn't endanger wildlife. What? He did? Oh, gosh dang it, Ash. Ash releasing his Butterfree during that emotional migration scene was an actual crime. Think about it. Releasing a domesticated Pokemon into a protected migration zone without any kind of permit? That's practically screaming environmental disaster. By letting Butterfree off into the wild, Ash might as well have put a wanted sign on himself for reckless endangerment. It's like setting a pet snake loose in a national park pond and hoping everything works out. Worst case, a hefty fine and a no Pokemon ownership ban for a while. Next time, Ash better check if he needs a wildlife permit before pulling another tear-jerking goodbye scene. Messing with wildlife could get Ash anything from a 1-year timeout to a whopping 10 years or more behind bars. Like, way longer than it took him to catch a Butterfree. Turns out, even wild Pokemon need their space. You would think that endangering wildlife is the most that he did, but you would be wrong. He broke international laws as well. Ash, the world traveler, picks up Pokemon from different regions like they're souvenirs. But if the Pokemon world acted upon their strict trade laws, our hero would be in some deep international waters. Upon entering a new region like Unova, Ash could be detained at customs because he failed to register Pikachu or Charizard with the proper authorities. Pikachu might be seen as a potentially invasive species since it's native to Kanto, and Ash could be accused of smuggling Pokemon across the international borders. The authorities could seize his Pokemon, and Ash would face charges for illegal Pokemon trafficking. Without the right documents, Ash could be looking at some major legal trouble, maybe even sparking an international Pokemon trade incident. Imagine headlines: Kanto trainer arrested for smuggling Pokemon across borders. He might have to deal with mountains of paperwork, fines, or even worse, getting banned from catching Pokemon outside his own region. Next time, maybe Ash should check if Pikachu needs a visa before battling in a foreign country. Breaking into international Pokemon centers? Oh boy, that could slap Ash with a 1 to 5 year sentence, long enough for him to miss a million Team Rocket blasts. Looks like even Pikachu won't be able to Thunderbolt him out of this one. Now that we escaped international waters, you would think that Ash would be kind to the Pokemon he caught, but that would not be the whole story. Remember when Ash's Charizard straight up refused to listen to him? Yeah, that wasn't just bad teamwork, it could be Pokemon cruelty under stricter laws. Charizard wasn't just ignoring commands, it was basically on strike, doing its own thing in battle and putting everyone at risk. Imagine Pokemon welfare authorities watching this mess unfold, clipboard in hand, ready to slap Ash with a negligent training charge. If Pokemon Pokemon laws were stricter, Ash would have been hauled into court, accused of reckless endangerment and poor Pokemon care. He'd be sitting there trying to explain how he meant to train Charizard while officials suggested he enroll in a mandatory Pokemon care course. Worst case, Ash goes to prison for at least 7 years. Next time, Ash, maybe give Charizard a little more TLC before sending it into battle. Now, let's just go back in time to when Ash began his journey. Surely he can't break the law just by exiting his house, right? Well, Ash Ketchum began his Pokemon journey at just 10 years old, traveling the world without any adult supervision. In a world with strict Pokemon travel laws, Ash should be in serious trouble. Imagine the authorities showing up at Professor Oak's lab, ready to slap Ash's mom and the good professor with negligence charges. You let a child wander off into the wild with electric rats and fire-breathing lizards? Not on our watch. If there were travel restrictions, Ash might be on the fast track to juvenile detention for breaking the rules. The Pokemon world could throw the book at him. Fines, lectures on safety, and maybe even a GPS-tracked Pokeball to keep tabs on him. Next time, maybe Ash should get his Pokemon trainer license and a chaperone before setting off on a world adventure. That, or he's looking at some serious legal timeouts. Ash could end up in prison for 8 to 20 years. That's like missing out on a whole generation of Pokemon. Guess even a Pokédex won't help him dodge this one. Though Ash has managed to disappoint us until now, at least he didn't do everything on purpose. Just like how he doesn't earn badges through victory, but sometimes through sheer determination. Or, let's be real, a few gym leaders took one look at Ash's passion and handed over a badge, even when he didn't actually win the battle. In a stricter Pokemon world, this would be a big no-no. If Pokemon League laws required every badge to be earned in a legitimate fight, Ash could be guilty of some serious badge fraud. I feel like it's not about earning badges in a legitimate way, but more about how others feel. Just imagine the faces of other trainers who have been training their Pokemon for 5 years, unable to beat the gym to progress, and just seeing a 10-year-old getting a badge just because he looks cute, I guess. Now that we covered Ash winning badges with his looks, what about some true crime, like illegal Pokemon battles? In episode 14, Ash faces off against Lieutenant Surge's Raichu, and after losing for the first time, he immediately pushes Pikachu into a rematch. But here's the thing, Pikachu had just been knocked around pretty badly. You've got to wonder, at what point does this become Pokemon cruelty? In a stricter world, there would definitely be some rules about sending an injured Pokemon back into battle so soon. Ash, you're practically skating on thin ice with this one. If Pokemon activists saw Ash throwing injured Pikachu in battle, they would cancel him faster than you can say Pika. Not only would he be canceled, but he would also be thrown in jail to serve at least 1 year. And that is if we were being generous. I wouldn't want to know what else would happen to him. His cuteness won't save him on this one. Let's go all the way back to episode 1, Ash's grand entrance into the Pokemon world. What does he do? He oversleeps, rushes out in a panic, and within minutes, he's causing absolute chaos by angering a flock of Spearows. Classic Ash, right? His recklessness doesn't just endanger him, poor Pikachu gets caught up in the mess too. Not to mention any nearby bystanders who probably had no idea what kind of bird-fueled mayhem was headed their way. If there were stricter public safety laws, Ash would be looking at a hefty fine, maybe even a stint in prison for day one recklessness, endangering lives, starting a bird riot, and using an exhausted Pikachu as a lightning rod. Ash is lucky no Pokemon authorities were around, because that little adventure would have landed him behind bars faster than you can say Thunderbolt. Flashback to episode 2, and Ash is already pushing his luck. Ash, you couldn't even wait for a single episode before making a ruckus again? After getting Pikachu injured, he bursts into the Pokemon Center, demanding Nurse Joy's help like he runs the place. Later, he teams up with Officer Jenny to fend off Team Rocket, acting like an honorary officer. But let's be real, if a kid pulled half the stunts Ash did, they'd be in handcuffs faster than Raikou using extreme speed. If I was in Officer Jenny's place, I would be pulling him aside and saying, "Look, kid, you can't just flash your Pokeball around and call yourself law enforcement," and that would be considered generous. If we're being real, he should be detained or even sent to prison to spend the night. Maybe then he would learn how to act right. In episode 11, he accidentally wanders into some serious trouble. While walking through the woods, Ash finds a poor little Charmander, abandoned and sitting on a rock. Feeling sorry for the cute fire lizard, Ash scoops it up and takes it to the Pokemon Center to get all healed up. So far, so good, right? Well, not for long. Just when things start looking better, along comes Charmander's original trainer, Damien, claiming he left Charmander behind to toughen it up. Okay, Damien, that is rude, but Charmander isn't having it. The fiery little guy decides it wants to stick with Ash instead. Without thinking twice, Ash says, sure, why not? And just like that, Charmander joins the team. But here's the thing, Ash totally forgot one important rule. You're not supposed to take someone else's Pokémon. He didn't trade for Charmander, he just took it. Next time, Ash, let's make sure the Pokémon actually belongs to you before adding it to your team. Ash hits a new level of what are you thinking when he poses as a doctor during a Pokémon emergency. That's right, with zero medical qualifications, he jumps into the operating room like he's the next Nurse Joy. Helping in an emergency is one thing, but impersonating a healthcare professional? That's a major no-no in any world with functioning laws. If the Pokémon world had stricter regulations, Ash would be slapped with a serious case of identity fraud and probably some hefty malpractice charges too. Imagine the headline, 10-year-old Pokémon trainer busted for pretending to be a doctor. Ash could have been facing fines, lawsuits, and maybe even a court-mandated lesson in why you shouldn't play doctor. Next time, maybe leave the surgeries to the professionals, Ash. Ash's attempt to help a wild child reconnect with his family takes a questionable turn when he decides to borrow a baby Kangaskhan, because that's totally not illegal, right? It's fine. Ash and his friends meet a wild child named Tommy, who's been living among a group of Kangaskhan in the Safari Zone. Naturally, Ash thinks the best course of action is to borrow a baby Kangaskhan to help Tommy reconnect with his parents. Sure, it's a heartwarming idea, but technically, that's a little thing called a kidnapping. Ash should have been in serious trouble for attempting to relocate a baby Pokémon without permission. If authorities were stepping in, they would surely tell him something like, you can't just take a baby Kangaskhan and play matchmaker, kid. Ash would be hit with charges of wildlife interference or attempted kidnapping, and probably face some serious fines. Next time, Ash, maybe stick to helping people without trying to abduct wildlife. In episode 46, Ash decides to dig up a hidden treasure, all while racing against Team Rocket and other trainers. The problem? He's doing it on protected land without any permits or authorization. Sure, searching for treasure sounds fun, but in the real world, this would be called illegal excavation. Ash's digging spree isn't exactly what you'd call environmentally friendly. And it doesn't end there. Ash even joins Team Rocket at one point in the episode to fight off the endangered ancient Pokémons. Can you believe it? Though the good thing is that Ash's Pokémon are so weak, and that Charmeleon didn't listen to him, so he couldn't actually damage the fossil Pokémons. Now that we have covered all of this, you still might want to see one more crime that needs a full episode to be explained, and that is the complete story of how Ash got his Pikachu.